Hello, Captain Bringdown here. This is a special video I'm going to dedicate to all my original followers who are here because of the esoteric symbolism in which I pointed out in Grand Theft Auto 5 and the gifts that I've given them from all those previous videos before. Was the eyes in which we see things. How when digging in deeper and deeper into the details of this, trying to figure out the meaning behind these clues or the way the game is created, we started to find esoteric principles. But I'm curious as to how many people actually looked up Joad. Did they see in the Grapes of Wrath Grandpa Joad, who didn't want to move and was literally drugged by his family? Just like Jimmy drugs Michael here. He dies from the result of it. How Michael has a spiritual death. Or did you look up the prophet Joad? Book of Kings chapter 13, where Joad is talking to Josiah, telling about how Archangel Gabriel told Abraham to find him an uncut stone to commit a sacrifice. So now we see this combination of these two paths again. This death by drugs or this death by sacrifice. Either way, we're just seeing how they went out of their way to create dual meaning, multiple meanings in things. But all these things have a common thread, and this is a theme that is created to set up the scenes for you. But understanding this knowledge and these metaphors, these right here, these alphabets right here, the eagle being created by here with the giant key. These paintings, these are the symbols and the metaphors you need to understand to get through the story. And what is this? This again is the biggest Easter egg that Rockstar had created. And when you understand the path through it and how to line these things up, it is absolutely it's neat, okay? It's magical. But so instead of telling you exactly how to get through it right now, there's been a few things that I really wanted to say. And the fact that I always run out of time in these videos, so I plan on explaining some of them now. A little bit deeper on how some of this artwork is all pointing to the same clues. You see, Rockstar took what we know esoterically as metaphors or allegory and made them real. This is why we saw that why Michael is the god Poseidon and his powers over the water. Why Franklin is this representation of Aphrodite and his powers over the women. Why Trevor is literally the epitome of the god of war, or Ares. And this is literally about unlocking the mind metaphorically, but this is again why the symbols here are all standing for something else intrinsically. How you're supposed to crack this egg. This is, so if we know this as the world egg as a metaphor, well, here this is a real egg you must crack. But the most common thing that we see here, especially in Grand Theft Auto 5, and why it's Vinewood, is this dying god, this concept of the resurrected one, Dionysus. And we also see this in the mysteries of Hades, and also in the mysteries of Jesus Christ, and also the mysteries of Odin. And it just goes on and on, that this is about a resurrecting god, somebody who dies and comes back. But there are a lot of crude jokes. There's a lot of profane things, but take this in the aspect that these are intrinsic symbols. Even in these terrible jokes here, like this boy getting murdered just for holding the girl's hand, did you see it? Did you see the hands clasping in the third eye, the rainbow beams? Where have you seen these things before? Even in these simple jokes, you start to see how everything is pointing to the same thing. And this is like, somebody asked, well, how could they have created something like this? It's because everything they created was out of the mystery itself. Like, what are these lights telling us? On how they are circling around the pole, on how they are these 8 dots circling around one. We see it over and over again as a symbol of a message we're trying to tell you. Is that this is about lining everything up into one thing. And this is why nobody is getting the mystery right. But once you understand these paths that you must take, that you must line up, you'll see how this all works and how what you're actually creating, this code, that in which you must find meaning of what these symbols really mean, and how it all must be done on the same night. That's the key here. On Mount Chiliad. See this eagle here that's separated by the game board, the rainbow, these three worlds, 3 paths. See, this eagle is a metaphorical eagle. Even in Red Dead Redemption, we see that this is, in fact, the eagle is a sphinx. This is a composite creature. You are metaphorically building the pyramid. You are metaphorically creating the eagle. And when you understand that is when you start to see the real key here. Did you notice the Star of David hidden in there? Also known as the Merkaba. Again, the merging of two triangles into one. And do we have any Stanley Parable fans here? Anybody see these bushes? They're very important. Make sure to keep them in your mind. But we came at this with no idea of looking for anything as the fool on the actual journey. So this is why we started to actually see what was going on in the aspect of the path that Rockstar was creating for us to follow. Because we weren't looking for anything specifically, we were able to see what the answer was. But being that this is Rockstar Games, everywhere we looked, there was a joke, of course. It was a pussy or dicks all day. And this is because this is going back to the feminine aspect and the male aspect. And that it's actually referring to something a little bit more sacred, but trying to appeal to those who may not have that level of understanding, right? It's the same as panic we see associated with Saturn and even Hades' horns up there, or the horns of Dionysus, you decide. But when you started to see how these ancient things were being played out, like literally, then it starts to make sense what's actually going on here. Anybody versed in the classic mysteries will tell you that all the rituals in which you performed were universal truths, but they were done metaphorically. Well, here, Rockstar is giving them to you literally. This is about initiation, and this is how the path is all about initiating them into the world of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Toward my initiation, is Big J on his way?
The hell are you talking about?
See, this is in the first steps of redemption for each of the characters and what they must go through first, their act of initiation. Franklin here literally has initiation of fire, as does Trevor. And we also see how Michael, being on the other side, has his initiation. One for the sun, one for the moon. One is in, one is out. Again, this male and feminine aspect. These are the keys to the puzzle. And understanding how all of them coming together is how this earns their wings. But the initiate's power comes from his being able to see the women where the others cannot. But if you start to look at this metaphorical brain as the map itself, then where would you hide the most sacred temple of all? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, where Bill Anthony plays every Saturday, the famous actor and acting guru.
No way!
Yep. Well, that's your plug, Anthony. Take it easy.
Later.
So let me now start to read some concepts and start breaking down the simplest symbol, and that is the eye, or the Vesica Pisces. And let's read from the Canon by W. Sterling. Popular in the Middle Ages and generally placed as the first proposition of Euclid, was a symbol applied to by the Masons in planning their temples. Dr. Oliver in Discreps, page 109, speaking of the Vesica, says, "This mysterious figure, Vesica Pisces, possessed an unbound influence on the details of sacred architecture, and it constituted the great and enduring secret of her ancient brethren." End quote. Go on to say, the Vesica was also regarded as a baneful object under the name of the evil eye, and a charm was generally employed to avert the dreaded effects of its fascination with the phallus. In the East, the Vesica was used as a symbol of the womb. Geometrically, the Vesica is constructed from two intersecting circles, so that it may be taken as having a double significance. Edward Clarkson says that, quote, means astronomically at the present day a starry conjunction, and by a very intelligent transfer of typical ideas, a divine marriage, quote, or twofold essence of life, with the ancients supposed to be male and female. Geometrically, the diagram contained the 10 steps of the Cabala as shown by Kircher and other authorities in the form described by Freemasons to what they called the double cube. What is to say, any regular hexagon which has exactly enclosed the Vesica. It is now suggested that the Vesica, whose proportion is the ratio of 26 to 15, was a symbol of the hidden rule of Canon, by which the synthesis of nature was reduced to a comprehensible figure capable of demonstrating to initiates the truth and knowledge which constituted the secret wisdom of antiquity. End quote. So you can see how the construction of this is highly Masonic. And when I looked years back on the internet, GTA 5 Freemasons, what I came across was an actual blog of younger Freemasons asking older Freemasons for their advice because they believed there was a brother hiding in the ranks of Rockstar, and that they should look into the symbolism in this game. And I love to quote this guy. Master Mason said that the very idea that a game like Grand Theft Auto 5 and its negative connotations would hold anything towards the betterment or enlightenment of man is ridiculous, and that they shall never ask or bring up this inquiry ever again. The end. So I am not a Freemason, and I'm not subject to vows of silence. But what I want to do here is actually show you what I believe is the Masonic Temple in this game, or at least the Temple of the Mysteries of Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I've looked all over this whole place. I've looked everywhere, but this exact building here is also synonymous with Legion Square. This unassuming building right here. Let's start checking out the symbols, shall we? So here we see the esoteric spirit door. And on the crest of this spirit door, we see some very interesting motifs. Those are ram horns on the corner there. But it's a two-headed king sharing the same face, kind of like a Janus style. We see this theme even in Red Dead Redemption 2. These two kings that must share the kingdom. Immediately, this is how another big clue on how this balanced Michael and Trevor 2 together must be achieved. And notice this other spirit door is blocked by a bush. This could be, again, the reference to the womb. But most importantly, there's two eagles here that are constructed that are above this green door. Now, this eagle reference, the double-headed eagle to be exact, is the highest echelon of the Masonic order. But again, that's a metaphor about them merging their both sides together. Notice the horns there, on how they are merging their both sides alchemically to create that perfect middle way. Here you're seeing it done literally. And this is again what the eagles symbolize and how you are bringing them together. Why the horns were on the other eagle there. On the noose motif, we see here a minotaur, owl-faced minotaur man with wing arms, and underneath it we see four satyrs, or goats man, again showing these horns underneath these wings. And above it we see one of the oldest symbols known to man. Originally was a symbol of Zeus conquering the house of Kronos. So in this aspect, it is Zeus conquering time, or you, the eagle, conquering time. And again, there's four of them, 5, 6, 7, 8 on one side. Now, if you come over here, it is double torched, and there's actually two golden plants here on single player, but not in online mode. If we look here, we also see the crest is crested by the two double-headed eagle there. And if anyone knows anything about the Masonic Order or the Templar Order, they will know that they actually came from France. It's French. Oh, look, the Fleur-de-Lis. And if you count how many stories this place is, that's interesting as well. Oh, by the way, this is where Franklin goes to pick up, when he steals the bus, to kill the assassination mission. The man he's supposed to pick on the bus is right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I would count that 13. Now, it's up to you whether you think that's 12 or 13. And during the Barry cutscenes, Michael and Trevor are both crowned with the Mason building. But I want to talk about the obvious angel here. Michael de Santa is usually depicted as Saint Michael, and this whole idea of balancing act. And we also see he's the great captain. We also see the Poseidon references here. But Michael usually appears in the form of water and snow. Gabriel, the same figure mentioned Daniel, is having a face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches. Sometimes the descriptions are reversed. This is a big deal that Rockstar is trying to tell you. Feel like things are flipped. Maybe it's been that way all along. So such a wise king. But this goes back into why these two have the descending post with the red flags, and why they are in the reverse images of each other, and why are the same as these cubes. These things must be done together. But they must be purified. This dragon must be a cleanse, right? Michael must become an angel. But I want to talk about this shape-shifting Trevor, who's also depicted as the devil here.
I ever tell you about Trevor?
Man, I think so. Shit.
Well, if you only think so, then I wasn't being completely honest. He's, hell walking on Earth. That's what he is.
See, Trevor takes many forms in this game, in the form of Ares, the god of war, but even in these contexts, he's referred to as the devil many times in the game. Yes, he says here at the end of Earth on Milton Road. I've said in my previous videos on how this was based off of Paradise Lost, but let me explain the fine details on how this is Paradise Lost. And if you want to get to heaven, you got to raise a little hell. That's going back to we're forced to go into Trevor's missions. So as I read from the summary of Book 4, we see Trevor being a symbol of the devil here, just like Milton describes. Satan lands on top of the highest mountain just north of Paradise, the Garden of Eden. He becomes gripped with doubt and about the task before him. He briefly considers whether he could be forgiven. But him being the devil, hell followed with him wherever he goes. End quote. I want to interject here with that he's also depicted as the Greek god Ares, the god of war, because he burns everything down, destroys everything, causing war before he leaves. But continuing on the summary of Milton's Chap, chapter 4, it reads, knowing that redemption or salvation cannot be granted to him, he resolves to continue to commit acts of sin and evil. End quote. Continue with it. He is observed by Uriel, the archangel, tricked into pointing the way. So one thing to know about Uriel is that he is the archangel of wisdom. And this is going to play into why the alchemical knowledge is depicted here with Trevor as well. But symbol of wisdom here in Grand Theft Auto 5, of course, is the owl. And if you look closely, the owl is always pointing the way. But let's continue. That Uriel then comes before the archangel Gabriel, who is at the gates, guarding the gates of Eden. It tells him of the shapeshifter he saw, and they suspect it to be most likely one of the fallen ones. Now, it is said that when Satan, he approached Eden, and he is surrounded by a great thicket wall, he leaps over it like a wolf into a sheep's pen. Inside, he sees an idyllic world with lots of animals and trees, and he sees the tallest tree, the tree of life, and next to it, the forbidden tree of knowledge. He purchased himself first as a cormorant, a large seabird, which is very interesting that all through Blaine County, cormorants spawn continuously, and we always wondered why. Anyway, so he goes on to then turn himself into a toad, which is whispering into the ear of Eve. And this is something that I've always wanted to talk about here.
Well, look who it is!
This is why the quarry is ear-shaped, and this is also why this man is called a toad. This is going to go into that the battle, of course, ends with Satan and them seeing scales in the sky and realizing he would lose, he changed. But this is going to go into where now Trevor has been changed. He's being alchemically changed here, as Rockstar puts it. And I get into telling you why, in fact, this begins with a toad. We now look at the alchemical formula that's given to us by Rockstar, and we see the toad and the fire here in the beginning of how Trevor is being morphed into the angel of Gabriel. And this is, in fact, how Trevor gains his wings, because he is now an angel of justice.
Well, thanks for the help, citizen. America's a little bit safer because of you.
Like I tried to explain in Karma and Man, that this is the prime example of the most important mission for Trevor, and how he's given all his clues from aerial photos. Because like the Archangel Gabriel, he is flying around trying to catch the devils within his Garden of Eden, his paradise. And so again, we see how this is all about karma and changing him into a better person.
Every man has his talents, Maud, and the rigorous administration of justice is one of mine.
That's why I love you, Trevor.
I'm hoping now that you can see
Well,
how
look who
something
it is.
as obscure as a man depicted as a toad in an ear-shaped quarry can have such profound meaning as to, like I said, John Milton's Paradise Lost. But the only reason why I would tell you this in the first place is because it's super important. But let's talk about the obvious mission of Ortega here.
Don't make it true. No!
You get the picture!
This is also a choice that Trevor must make. Do you let him go, or are you the angel of death? Now let's look at how the angel crashing into some man's home.
Your cousin! Fuck! It's come to visit
Again, you
you
can
rude
see
fuck.
how
Now get
this
up
is
off the floor and
easily
fix me a
synonymous with
fucking
that picture
drink.
there in the devil in the man's home. But this was the harder one, the sword in the man's head, right? Why the sword? Well, next to the apartment La Espada, the sword, there is a man who calls himself a sheep, a goat, and who, by all standards, is an absolute ass. So kill him, take him to the altruist camp. But why the banner? Why the sword? And see, but why the peyote? And this is where we start to see this other reference to the bounty that Earth can give us, and the ends of the Earth, Stranger Mission, Red Dead Redemption 2, which I believe they are talking about the peyote. Let's listen.
Arthur, you familiar with the study of plants, my friend? Familiar ain't quite the word I'd use. Well, let me tell you. This great earth beneath our feet can provide everything man ever needs. But we've only reached a tiny bit of its potential. You see...
Now, I know this is Red Dead Redemption 2, but I want to interject. Listen to what he says in context to the peyotes and what I just showed you in reference to Grand Theft Auto 5. Pay attention right here.
I mean to explore them all.
Did he mean the terrain or the plants?
All of the wonder, if I can. Sure. But I'm only one man. Would you consider helping me with gathering herbs for my studies?
Why?
Knowledge, kindness, beauty.
Well, I'm ignorant, ugly, and nasty.
Well, let's see if maybe we can do something about that.
I'll see.
Only if you take the steps towards change. Now here we actually saw this as Troy, where Michael is, again, these are kings, right? So here we have him parlaying with an enemy, the king of Sparta, and his red-headed wife, the beautiful Helen of Troy. And remember, Trevor wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Michael, so we saw him as the Trojan horse. Notice how she stares very strangely at this X that being formed there on the rack. Now let's look at the king, the symbolism of the pictures of the King Louis back there, the black horse, the white horse with Michael, black horse with Trevor. Same horse on the far left, we see him with Solomon. It's connecting these places, but follow the horses. Notice the symbolism travels with them. The two kings running away. Just because you can reread it, what does it mean? And even if you did see it, are you looking at it from both sides? And that's the thing, is that Rockstar has created these pieces of the game as puzzle pieces. Just like this pyramid can only be seen when it is put together. These are the giant lines we see through the missions in the game. Notice the lines going up. What's the peak, guys? But so let's talk about the symbolism of this pyramid here, the eagle's tail. And how even understanding the symbolism gives you answers to the pyramid. Manly P. Hall states in The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Chapter 7, The Initiation to the Pyramid, the initiates of old accepted the pyramid form as the ideal symbol of both the secret doctrine and chose institutions established from its dissemination. Both pyramids and mounds are archetypes of the holy mountain. or high place of God, which was believed to stand in, quote, the midst of the earth. John P. Lutney relates the Great Pyramid to the fabled Olympus, further assuming that its subterranean passageways corresponded to the tortuous byways of Hades, end quote. He continues with the three main chambers of the pyramid are related to the heart, the brain, and the generative system, the spiritual centers of the human constitution. The triangular form of the pyramid also is similar to the posture assumed by the body during the ancient meditative exercises. The mysteries taught that the divine energies from the gods descended upon the top of the pyramid, which was likened to an inverted tree with its branches below and its roots at the apex. From this inverted tree, the divine wisdom is disseminated by streaming down the diverging sides and radiating throughout the world, end quote. He explains further, and I quote, that the Egyptians, the Great Pyramid was associated with Hermes, the god of wisdom and letters, and the divine illuminator, worshipped through the planet Mercury. Related Hermes to the pyramid emphasized the new fact that it was in reality the supreme temple of the invisible supreme and the supreme deity. The Great Pyramid was not a lighthouse, an observatory, or a tomb, but the first temple of the mysteries, the first structure erected as a repository for those secret truths which are the certain foundation of all arts and sciences. It was the perfect emblem in the microcosm and the macrocosm, and according to the secret teachings, the tomb of Osiris, the black god of the Nile. Osiris represents a certain manifestation of solar energy, and therefore his house or tomb is emblematic of the universe within which it is entombed, and upon the cross on which he is crucified. I continue with through the mystic passages and chambers of the Great Pyramid, past the illuminated of antiquity, they entered its portal as men and came forth as gods. It was the place of the second birth, the womb, quote, womb of the mysteries, unquote, and wisdom dwelt in as God dwelt in the hearts of men. Somewhere in the depths of its recesses there resided an unknown being who was called, quote, the Initiator, or the Illustrious One, robed in blue and gold, and bearing in his hand the sevenfold key of eternity. This was the lion-faced Hierophant, the Holy One, the Master of Masters, who never left the house of wisdom, and whom man ever saw save he who had passed through the gates of preparation and purification. It was in these chambers that Plato, he of the broad brow, came face to face with the wisdom of the ages personified in the Master of the hidden house. End quote. He goes on to talk about the capstone here, quote, the capstone therefore is the epitome of the entire structure. Thus the pyramid may be likened to the universe and the capstone to man. Following the chain of analogy, the mind is the capstone of man, the spirit the capstone of the mind, and God the epitome of the whole, the capstone of the spirit. As a rough and unfinished block, man is taken from the quarry and by the secret culture of the mysteries gradually transformed into a true and perfect pyramidal capstone. The temple is complete only when the initiate himself becomes the living apex through which the divine power is focused into the diverging structure below. End quote. I wanted to also show you that just by looking into the details of the symbols being used, we're able to find meaning. I will continue on the ancient mysteries and secret societies which have influenced modern Masonic symbolism, Chapter 2, with an initiation into Mithras. Initiation into the rites of Mithras, like initiation into many other ancient schools of philosophy, apparently consisted of 3 important degrees. Preparation for these degrees consisted of self-purification, the building up of the intellectual powers and the control of the animal nature. In the first degree, the candidate was given a crown upon the point of a sword, and instructed in the mysteries of Mithras' hidden power. Probably he was taught that the golden crown represented his own spiritual nature, which must be objectified and unfolded before he can truly glorify Mithras. For Mithras was his own soul, standing as a mediator between his spirit and his animal nature. In the second degree, he was given the armor of intelligence and purity and sent into the darkness of subterranean pits to fight the beast of lust, passion, and degeneracy. In the third degree, he was given a cape, upon which were drawn or woven the signs of the zodiac and other astronomical symbols. After his initiations were over, he was hailed as one who had risen from the dead, was instructed in the secret teachings of the Persian mystics, and became a full-fledged member of the order. Candidates who successfully passed the Mithratic initiations were called lions, and were marked upon his forehead with the Egyptian cross. End quote. Okay, this video has gone long enough, and I'll end it there. But the whole point was to try to teach you how these esoteric templates were used into the creation of this mystery. Everything that was created came out of the mystery, so everything that Rockstar is showing you as far as clues is leading you to one conclusion: you're God.
You have to make sure you see what you plan to realize. It's a simple truth based on actualities, contingencies, revelations, and infusions. It's a belief system anyone can master. A simple 4-stage process we should all embrace. Hear the good news! You're a living God!
If anyone's familiar with Chiliad 8888, you are a dharmic living God. But you must pay attention to every little detail, every little clues. Why apples and oranges? I've explained already. Notice how everything is pointing to this esoteric symbolism of what their mystery is. So you must, like, why the 3 ascending blocks? What are these 3 ascending blocks in connection to? Why do we see it there? Why do we see it there? Why do we see it there? Here, the exact number they represent. So this is the point I'm getting at, is once you start to see how everything is pointing to the answer, that it's way easier for you to come to understanding on how epsilon is part of these ascending blocks that goes up. Why these 3 blocks are shown there in the color blue. Notice the gold outlining the green and the purple, the reversing. Notice the giant L there with the little golden tip. Why is it also here shown with the black tip? I hate the fact that most people say that they don't understand what I'm talking about, when in reality all I'm doing is showing you what's already there. Rockstar is the one asking you, can you see these things as metaphors? These 2 baths converging through with these 3. This rite of passage that needs to be taken in order to ascend through the mystery of Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not the one coming up with these ideas. This is Rockstar. 3 crying eyes and the growling. Why, the Dionysian Theater. I wonder what they could be talking about. You must learn to be versed in Rockstar's mystery, their world. Look at these things in comparative to other things. Where have I seen that before? The biggest clue of all, why are those ears wings? But listen, we must ascend together as fools in this journey, following the path that Rockstar has created, and together we can ascend through the middle way, together as the ascended.
Yes! Woo! Welcome back, man! It is the old you!
Yeah, well, we gotta go. It's been great, but Dave here's got a Pilates class. Now remember, ladies,
these principles are based on esoteric symbolism. These are still considered secrets to a lot of secret societies, but here, Rockstar is giving it to you for free. So let's go through the gate together, brothers and sisters. Till then, next time, Captain Bring Down out.